Hey YouTube, this is Michael in Boulder, Colorado, and I'm going to be refinishing these classic DCM TF-400 TimeFrame speakers. I've done three or four pairs of these previously, refinished them, restored them, and sold them. This pair is special though. These were intended to be my own personal pair, um, which I did different than they were originally, because I have two cats and a dog, and these originally were covered in normal speaker grill cloth. It's a big sock that gets pulled down over the top of the speaker and glued on the top and the bottom, and then the end caps are put on. So I knew that wouldn't work with the cats, so I tried to cat-proof these by covering them in speaker carpet instead, but it turned out to be too stretchy and pliable, and the cats had their way with it, and so that didn't work out. So I'm going to be taking all of that off, starting fresh, and refinishing these as they were originally. But I'm showing them as they are now so that you can see the innards. You can see the drivers, which are normally covered up. This is a 2.5-way speaker with a woofer on the bottom, 6.5-inch woofer, and then a 6.5-inch mid woofer. It's the same driver, just fed different frequencies, which is on the top, and that's covered by a square metal grill that holds the tweeter exactly over the middle of the mid woofer, which is supposed to give a better sound. I couldn't tell you exactly how much of a difference it makes, but I will tell you that these are a beautiful sounding speaker. I love the sound of these, and if it weren't for the cats, I would have held on to these, but I moved on to a more conventional speaker that has a metal grill that they can't destroy. So these are going to get redone and put up for sale. They are just about 36 inches tall. They are a wide and flat speaker. It's not a flat panel speaker, so to speak, but they're built this way, and I think it's a really cool look. They also do well close to a wall, which is important if you're short on space. And the magic of these is part in due to the ambient tweeter that's in the back. This particular pair started off as a version 1 that didn't have the rear tweeter, but I upgraded them myself by finding the correct crossovers on eBay, swapping out the original crossover to the one that's got the circuit for the rear tweeter and adding it myself. They're rear ported, as you can see down there, and they have these little kick-out stands on the bottom to make sure they don't fall over, which easily folds away if you want to. And the whole thing works out quite well, and it's got a beautiful warm sound to it. Oh, last thing I forgot to mention is I upgraded the tweeter on these, which I'll be talking about more later. So that's it for now. I'm going to get to work on these. I'm going to be taking off the wooden end caps, refinishing those, stripping off all of this old fabric, and filling and fixing some stripped screw holes, and then covering with new inner fabric and outer fabric to restore these to their original condition. There was something I was going to mention, I forgot what it was, but that's okay. I'll figure it out later. Be back in a little while. Okay, I finished stripping all of the trim and the carpeting off of the DCM TimeFrame speakers, and I'm just going to show you for a minute the very complex cabinets that are underneath all of the covering, because I don't think you'll be able to find this information anywhere else. You can see here's one front on the left and back on the right. It's a very interesting design, very complex compared to most typical box speakers. I read that the time frames are a modified transmission line design, which has to do with the routing in the back of the speaker for the sound, such that the bass does not reverberate at any particular frequency but is smooth throughout the range. I hope I got all that right. Anyway, looking at the back of the speaker, once it's open, there is a port here which is open to the speakers in the front, and then there's a baffle here, and then there's a baffle here, so that some of the sound comes down through in an S shape like this down to the very bottom of the cabinet. Just thought that was an interesting side note. I thought I'd take a minute to talk about the tweeters, because I've changed them out for a newer tweeter. The original DCM tweeter is shown on the bottom left, and on the bottom right is my new tweeter. It's a Tang Band soft dome tweeter. It's got the same form factor pretty much. It's a little bit bigger, but the holes are in the same place, so if you cut it down, it fits just fine into the DCM metal grills for the front. So this is Tang Band 13-1264S, and there's another model that is essentially the same thing, a slightly different number. They're getting difficult to find. I'm not sure if I'll be able to do any more TimeFrame speakers with these new tweeters, but they've got a great sound, so I've got enough for this one pair, and somebody's going to be very lucky to have them. All right, it turned out to be a beautiful day in early February here in Boulder, Colorado, and so I've done the next step in refurbishing these speakers. I've just applied the headliner fabric, which is the inner layer of fabric that needs to go on them, and done the cutouts for all of the front and back speakers and binding posts and whatnot. And then the next step is going to be to install all the drivers and everything and test them out before I cover them in the final layer, which is a tube of speaker grill cloth, which will then get glued at the top of the bottom, just like the headliner fabric was. I'm also showing you the newly refinished oak top and bottom end pieces. They came out great. They look beautiful after having stripped off the old polyurethane and put furniture restorer on them. So I'm going to get started on the next step, and hopefully we'll have these all finished by the end of the weekend. I'll walk around so you can see what they look like. There's already blonde dog hair on them. It's tough to keep that off, but so far so good. All right, we're ready for the final part of the reassembly of the speakers, and I have the grill socks, which I have sewed previously. It's basically a long tube that's tapered at the top, and I'll be pulling it down over the speaker until it's snug, cutting it off, gluing it on the top, gluing it on the bottom, and then putting the oak end caps back on. Then on the back, I just need to cut 2 holes for the port and the terminal cup, reattach those, and we'll be done. Okay. And other than one final audio test, we are done. Hard to see in this light. I'll take some more video later.